Well, good morning and welcome to the Sports Bar Show. A different day. Yeah, Wednesday morning, chewing the fat and talking balls, and in his usual spot. Well, he does change around from time to time. It's the manager, Brent Peters. Good morning.
How are you doing?
I'm not doing too bad, mate. Yourself?
Have you noticed I've brought, I thought I'd wear this shirt today with pride because of our guest. It's just a bit of support for him, moral support.
You don't need an excuse to wear a United shirt.
Listen, us Reds stick together. That's what it is. We stick together. Listen, that's so I thought I'd wear it in just to show a bit of respect and notwithstanding, I'm sure they play tonight as well. So it's a double whammy.
Double bubble. How are you doing anyway? How's the sports bar? You reopen for business?
Listen, don't get me on this subject. Why are you getting me on this subject again? I'm going to I'm going to enlighten you a minute. I'm serious when I say this. I think
I love winding you up. I love winding you up.
I think our friend Boris. I saw him the other night. He was on TV and he's got this hard hat on, and he's got an Irish jacket. Now, honestly, I think he should be having an hard hat on because if they give him a straight jacket, it'd be nutting walls and they'd be like taking him away. Because some of the things he comes out with, or the government come out with, I mean, how the monkey neck could they lifted lockdown on Saturday, I think it was. They lifted lockdown for all the pubs. So the pubs we strict. I'm saying they're supposed to have strict control. You're only supposed to be sat at a table. You've got 2.5 hours. And then obviously somebody else comes in. You have to leave. It can't be manned. It couldn't be manned. It was ridiculous. So, I mean, what should have happened is I get people want to, but if they're so desperate for a drink, it should have just been licensed restaurants opening, right, where you could go for a bit of food and you could get your drink, not turning round and coming out with all this what can't be manned. And I don't blame the establishments. I blame our friend Boris and the government for coming out with some absolute rubbish that I'm sure they're on a different page to everybody else. I mean, this is a laugh, isn't it? Club near us, week before they lifted lockdown,
yeah,
they decided to let people in and have a trial run. What's that? How can you have a trial run with no conditions? There were all these conditions. So they opened last week. They opened, fair credit to them, they opened, but there were no conditions. It was just like deja vu.
Are they our friends who play with a bat and a ball?
I'm not going to say who they are. I'm not saying who they are. All I'm saying is, if a new spike appears in Bacup, we know where it started. It'll be easy to track and trace. It's not a problem. It's absolutely not a problem. But listen, it is what it is. And while we're on the subject, something else, I can't understand for the life in me why has it taken to this next weekend for cricket to start. I can't believe that, because let's be honest, if you're a batter, you can easily control social distancing because you don't have to all sit in pavilions. You can spread out around the pitch at next one on, so you just walk out in the field.
Yeah.
If you're in the fielding, you're social distanced, aren't you? So the only worry there is this ball that we're talking about. Well, it's a bit of a problem with the ball. Will it disinfect? Well, surely at the end of every time you've bowled down the wicket, you just put it in a bottle. It's some disinfectant and then wipe it and off you go again. So
yeah, but you were telling us though, Brent, it's a bit different for us because our ball ends up in cow shit.
Well, yeah, it does. That's a football, but this is a cricket ball. I mean, that's another thing. I mean, when I was at school, I always looked at rounders was for the girls, and I think cricket is an extension of rounders. So how come there's loads of girls playing football these days, which rightly so, and it's good to see. Well, I mean, there's a Lancashire League goes on in Rosendale, but unless I'm wrong, and I stand to be corrected, I ain't seen one girl. playing at Lancashire League. So is it not many girls play this cricket? Because let's be honest, it is kind of a girly game, isn't it?
Yeah. Bit like baseball.
Well, yeah, exactly. It's a bat and a ball, isn't it? That's what it is. But anyway, I can't believe they were on. I can't believe that it's took till now to they spoilt the summer cricket. Joking apart, they have spoilt it, and there were no need to do. Should have been thought out better.
Yeah.
But thankfully, it's back on.
Let's get the main man on. Come on, let's stop messing around.
Well, you know what, Steve? Seriously, this gives me a tremendous pleasure today. It does do every time we have guests on, because my contacts, you know, I pick me contacts carefully.
I don't want your head to get too big, but you pulled off some blinders in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, but you know, the good contacts, and you know, today's no exception. He's a really, really genuine. You know, take away everything that's gone on. He's really, really, really a genuine, lovely, nice lad. I know he's talked about in his book, and I've got his book here, you know. Ladies and gentlemen.
Is that a signed copy?
Boys and girls, go to W.H. Smith and get one off the shelf, because it makes absolutely fantastic reading. But let me tell you, he talks about one part in there. He says that it were a bit frosty when he left Bacup, and I didn't like it, and I didn't like it. Listen, Ben, don't take that personal, because I'm like that with everybody who leaves Bacup, especially people I have the utmost respect for. You know, while we're playing 90 minutes, I want to kick the 7 bells of shit out of them on a football pitch, because I don't want them at the end of the day, you know, coming back to my team. So don't take it personal, because it isn't personal. But, you know, I absolutely love this guy to bits. He's a tremendous guy. He's played for Manchester United, but unfortunately his career was cut short with a bad injury, and we hear this too many times. Before his career could take off, really. He's represented Huddersfield Town. He's represented Aberdeen. He's represented Blackpool, Borough, Halifax, the famous Bacup Borough. And we were proud to have him here. Salford City, Witton Albion. He now works as a TV co-commentator at MU TV. Would you welcome a really, really top guy in Ben Thornley?
Good morning, fellas. Thank you, Brent. That was a hell of an introduction. And I did mention that in my book, but I'm glad to see that, you know, there isn't any frostiness, and let's have it right. You wouldn't have invited me on if that was still the case. So I'm glad that chapter's closed, and yeah, I had a great time when I played with you, and it was different circumstances as to why I left to go and join Salford City, but that's all in the past. And if you've got no hard feelings, neither have I.
No, exactly not. Yeah, none at all.
Good.
Brilliant.
But thank you for that introduction. That was very flattering.
Well, cheers, Brent. I should say, Ben, thanks for joining us this morning on the Sports Bar Show. We're going to start with a book, because everything's in the book, isn't it?
Yeah. The book came about, just very briefly, I'll tell you the story. As I've now moved to Essex and I'm driving, you know, or using the train. I'm not driving a lot, but I'm using the train a lot. So I was going through Euston, and eventually somebody contacted me, and this somebody turned out to be Dan Poole, who co-wrote the book with me. And he started following Manchester United when the class of '92 were really being spoken about. And he started to collect autographs and stuff like that. And I was one of the ones that he was missing. And he'd seen me coming through Euston Station, because he worked in Baker Street just round the corner, and had to come into Euston to get his train back out to Surrey, where he was living. So he wrote to me, and I, you know, happily met up with him, gave him the autographs. We sat and had a cup of coffee. Lovely fella. And then after I'd left, he sent me a message, and he said, listen, you know, have you ever thought about writing your book? He said, I've been an avid follower of not just your career, but all the careers of the class of '92. And he said, I think that you've got a very interesting story to tell. I never even batted an eyelid about it. I thought, you know, why would anybody be interested in a book that I did? I didn't make it as a footballer at Manchester United for, you know, reasons that everybody who's read the book and people who know the club inside out understand why that didn't happen. And I didn't think that it would be anything that anybody would be interested in reading. But I eventually came round to the way that Dan wanted to write it. And again, anybody that's read the book will understand that it sort of jumps around a little bit, and he brings in the appropriate players to, you know, to give the appropriate comments. I think he's written it extremely well. People will say, obviously, I'm biased, but I think the way that he has done it is quite interesting. It's not a book that's got a start, a middle, and an end. It does keep jumping around, but not so it's so difficult to be able to follow. And it took us the best part of a year to do it. I, you know, got to, I think it was about 50 odd players that I played with before I did my injury, when I made my debut, the players that I played with when I came back after my injury, so that they could, you know, they could distinguish between the type of player that I was before and after the injury. And it was a really cathartic exercise. And I wanted to make sure that if I was going to do it, it was going to be the truth. Some of the things in there I'm obviously, you know, not proud of, but then, you know, you can't change your past, and that's what I did at the time. Yes, I do have one or two major regrets, of course I do, but then when people look back on their lives, you know, there's always something that they would probably change and do differently. But I wanted it to be full upfront, no lies, no stitching anybody up. That wasn't what I was doing it for at all. And I'd like to think that going all the way through the book, I haven't done that in the slightest. And I was really, really pleased with the reception that it got. You know, I'm no J.K. Rowling by any stretch, but anybody that's read it has always come back to me if they've taken the trouble to do so and just say, you know, listen, it's I didn't realise what your story was all about, but it was a really interesting read, and that is as good as it gets for me. It wasn't anything to do with the money. I didn't want to. Like I said, I didn't want to stitch anybody up. I just wanted to tell the truth and let people know what my career may have been, and that I've got now no regrets whatsoever that it didn't turn out like that, and certainly no bitterness.
Yeah, did you find it quite therapeutic then, Ben, to get the words out onto paper?
Yes, I did. It was very cathartic. I had to do things like rerun the tackle that curtailed my career at Manchester United, which wasn't easy. It wasn't always easy getting hold of people. You know, getting hold of David Beckham, you may as well try and get hold of somebody who's on the moon. But he was absolutely brilliant and did it in the back of I want to say a taxi, but it's probably some sort of chauffeur-driven limousine.
Yeah, it will be bulletproof.
That was taking him to the airport to fly off to Miami. But he gave me 45 minutes of his time, or he gave Dan 45 minutes of his time. And he was absolutely brilliant. And it isn't just him. It's everybody that did give up, you know, the time to be able to bring this book together. And for that, I am extremely grateful.
Yeah. Well, you won't have any problems, because it sounds like you're pretty good mates with a lot of the class of 92, if not all of them. Yeah,
I still keep in touch with them. Some more than others, obviously. I see Gary Neville regularly when we're doing our punditry, him for Sky and obviously me with MUTV. I speak to Keith Gillespie regularly. I see Sav from time to time. Paul Scholes the same with his capacity of BT. But Nicky Butt obviously works at the club in the he's the academy director or manager, whatever you want to call it, and he's done a fantastic job there. Yeah, I'm very, very privileged that I have got a lot of people that I can call on at any given time for whatever reason. And it's nice to know that I must have made some sort of an impression, because they don't always ignore my calls.
Yeah, but we always talk about the tackle, because of course the book's called the Tackle, and everyone knows you from your time at Manchester United. But it was a game that maybe you shouldn't have been playing in the first place. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I don't think it's that I shouldn't have been playing. It was Sir Alex Ferguson that said to me, you know, there's a really good chance that you'll play in the FA Cup final the following Sunday. And we hadn't had against Oldham, in '94. We hadn't had a reserve game the previous week, so I would have gone nearly 2 weeks without playing football had I not have taken part in the game against Blackburn. So he always wanted me to play just to, get me a little bit of match practice and just to get some minutes under my belt, just in case I was going to be needed. So that was never in question. What I shouldn't have done was told Jim Ryan, my then reserve team manager, that I was okay when he shouted to me on the pitch in the second half, and that I wanted to carry on. When you talk about regrets, then that is probably my biggest regret that I've ever made, was that I didn't go off the field and get myself tuned in to maybe playing in the FA Cup semi-final. Instead, I was on my way to hospital for an emergency operation to try and salvage my knee and salvage my career. Yeah,
because I haven't read the book. I know Brent's. You've read the book, Brent, haven't you? Made interesting reading.
Yeah, good. It's a good book. It really is. And, I recommend anybody to, you don't have to be a Man United supporter or follower to read the book, because there's a lot of it, it talks about every club, which is credit to Ben. He hasn't missed anybody out. He's kind of spoke about every club he's been at. And there's extracts in that book about his time at those clubs. So it makes a really good reading for all football followers out there. You don't have to be a Red, you don't have to be anything. If you're a football follower, I strongly recommend you go and buy this book, because it is very, very, makes really good reading.
I suppose it's a book, Ben, which kind of just shows that don't matter what profession you're in, Ben, your life can change in a split second.
Of course it can. Yeah, of course it can. And in a way, that's what I tried to convey to people, that I didn't want people feeling sorry for me, because I spent enough time perhaps feeling sorry for myself, which I shouldn't have done. I did want to convey that message, that no matter what you're doing and how well things are going, there is always something around the corner that can trip you up quite severely. And that's exactly what happened to me. And I like to think that it had a little bit of everything, and obviously it had the quotes and the paragraphs and whatever else you want to call it from the ex-players that obviously people know, household names. It had a little bit of fun in it. It had a little bit of sadness in it. But what I wanted to come out of it was that, as bad as things may get for you, if you have the right people around you and the right help, then you can get back on your feet very, very quickly. And, I love my life at the moment. The football inside of it didn't turn out the way that I would have hoped, and maybe what I might have been destined for. But there's no point in me dwelling on that, because it would just make me a very angry, bitter person. I look to the positives and how grateful I am to have the people in my life, both now and back then, and some of those that overlap and are still the same. My family, for one, that helped me get through times that were exceedingly difficult. Sir Alex Ferguson was absolutely brilliant. I still speak to him now. The players, obviously, that I grew up with, that I'm still in contact with now. And when we've done things like this, they've always been so complimentary. And it makes me feel very, very humble. But yeah, I wanted to make sure that people understood that as low as you might get in your life, there's always a way out, and it might take a little bit of time. But I'm hoping that people, sort of picked up on that as well, and that, like I said, as bad as it gets, that there are ways to improve your life, and the people around you are very, very important in helping you to do that.
Yeah, definitely are. Well, one of the things you were getting up to at Man United, I want to know a little bit about Prince Charming and Robbie Savage in A Christmas Play. Go on, tell us more.
Do you know what? I can't remember that, me. I honestly can't remember it. That must have just gone by in the blink of an eye. But the rest of the lads seem to remember it a lot better than I did. So yeah, I was picked to play Prince Charming, and Robbie Savage with his with his flowing blonde locks was picked to play the princess. And yeah, I mean, even if I could remember it, it would probably be something that I would choose to forget anyway. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
But they were all good times. There were little initiations that we did that everybody speaks about. But this was a Christmas thing that some of the first team players used to organise and get us to do in front of the whole club one lunchtime around Christmas, and it was all in good fun and good humour, and it gave us the opportunity to basically to take the piss out of whoever we wanted.
Well, I was watching a podcast from last year. I think it was last March. You were with the guys from is it on the couch under the cosh?
Fantastic.
Good bunch of
John Parkin.
Yeah, brilliant show that it is.
Yeah,
and
they are really good guys. Yeah, I did enjoy that. It was fantastic.
The initiation where someone had to go ball naked around the football pitch wearing a pair of Wellington boots.
That's absolutely correct. Yeah. A guy called, and he won't mind me saying his name because everybody saw it anyway. A guy called Jimmy Shields, and yeah, he was in the snow, trudging round in a pair of wellies, completely butt naked. A very, very funny sight with everybody standing at the window. But again, it's one of these things. If you get a forfeit, you have to bow to it, and it's better just to get it done and get it out of the way, and people forget about it. Otherwise, it'll just eat away at you. Yeah.
And after your time at United, of course, you know, you moved on to Huddersfield. You seem to have a good time at Huddersfield. Not just one spell, but twice, Ben.
Yeah, I certainly when I got there under Peter Jackson and Terry Yorath, who I really enjoyed working under, we were in a position where I think, if I remember rightly, we needed to win at Fulham. A very, very good Fulham side that had Louis Saha in it, for example, Lee Clark, Steve Finnan. They were Barry Hales. They were a really, really good side, and we needed to win that game to maybe have got in the playoffs. And what made it worse that day is that my girlfriend at the time was a Manchester City fan, and I'd actually got her tickets through Keith Gillespie, who was at Blackburn. They were playing Blackburn, and they won 4-1 at Blackburn. And when I spoke to her after the game, and she was a madman City fan, and she'd been to the game, and City had got promoted along with Fulham that year. And we didn't speak to each other for 3 days because I was absolutely pig sick that we'd missed out on the playoffs. And I've got to listen to her harping on about the fact that Manchester City, of all teams, had been promoted to the Premier League. But we had a sort of a little bit of an indifferent time between then and the end of the season, when there was talk about a takeover. And we had a guy, a Bradford businessman, who made all your satellite dish boxes, who was the owner of a company called Pace. And he was based in Bradford, and he came in and he bought the club, pumped in quite a little bit of money. And with that was the disappearance of Peter Jackson and Terry Yorath to bring in a more high-profile name, and that's not to be disrespectful to either of the two of them. Obviously, Terry Yorath is a household name and was a hell of a player, but he wanted somebody with a more sort of up-to-date record, if you like, and he brought in Steve Bruce, who we all know was for a very short time one of my teammates. Yeah. So he came in the first season. He spent a lot of money bringing in players like Clyde Weinhard from Leeds, George Donis, the Greek winger, Kenny Irons, who was a tremendous guy who scored a lot of goals for Tranmere.
Some big salaries there as well, Ben.
Big salaries. Chris Lachetti, who Brent will know as well. He was again turned out to be our captain and a real solid professional, Chris. But we didn't have they didn't have, not just them, the whole team didn't have the kind of impact that the money that Steve Bruce had spent. It just failed to deliver. And even though we sort of got close in the first season, at the start of his second season, we just fell away. I mean, George Donis, who I've just mentioned, he didn't even turn up for pre-season training. He signed a 4-year contract, and his second year, he just didn't even bother coming back. So that was the kind of thing that he was up against. And I think we lost 10 of our first 11 games in all competitions. The only game that we won, and I think that probably eked out his tenure there was we beat Bradford in one of the cups, which obviously Huddersfield Bradford is a huge game and has a lot of history as well. But then he came to training one morning and said, listen, I've just had my meeting, and I think we all knew what he was going to say. So he thanked us all and he trudged off. And my time under Steve Bruce wasn't wonderful. It was either great or it was terrible. There was no real consistency with it. And for instance, the first thing he did when I missed out this name, who everybody will know, I learned just after I came back from watching the final in the new camp, and Steve Bruce took over in '99, the start of the 99-2000 season, that he signed Scott Sellers. And Scott, again, wonderful player,
fantastic winger,
foot, a brilliant lad as well. Helped me immensely while I was actually there. And bearing in mind that we were probably vying for the same position, even though by that time me and Scott were completely different players. He'd lost his pace a little bit, but he was still a very much a thinking man's footballer. And he helped me massively when he was out of the team and I was in it. And I have great respect for him for doing that, considering I at that time was in his position
competing.
But I went after Steve Bruce before he got to his car, and I said to him, I know that we always haven't seen eye to eye type thing, but I just want to thank you. And it made me feel good to do that, because it paved the way for some of the other players to do exactly the same thing. And at the end of the day, you're always going to learn things from a top professional like Steve Bruce and a top player like he was. And obviously he's gone on to be a top manager as well, with the jobs that he's had and the job that he's got at the moment, managing an enormous club in Newcastle United. And it made me feel good that I was not always in favour under Steve Bruce, but when I was, he was brilliant with me, and I can't knock him for that at all. So Lou Macari came in with Joe Jordan after that, and things. It wasn't Lou's fault. They had players there on big money that they were under pressure to get rid of. We were dangerously close to falling through the trapdoor, which we duly did that season in my last season. And before long, you're finding yourself in the third tier of English football on players that are earning, sort of 250, 300 grand a year, which was a hell of a lot of money. And there wasn't just one or two of them. There were perhaps 5 or 6 of them. And what made it doubly bad was the following season, after I'd left, they went through the trapdoor and ended up in the bottom tier of English football, which was a real killer. And I think what Huddersfield have done in the last sort of 10, 15 years to actually get themselves into the Premier League and survive for one season, I think they've done absolutely brilliantly. And I just hope, because as Brent's already mentioned, I have a fondness for pretty much all the clubs that I've played for. I hope that they can avoid dropping down into League One for the start of the following season, because it's a tremendous club. And like I said, from where they were after I left the club to where they managed to get them to a couple of seasons ago, I have tremendous respect there, and I do hope that they stay where they are. Yeah,
certainly. And then you moved on to Aberdeen, where you had two seasons at Aberdeen. The first season was pretty good because you got them into Europe.
Yeah, well, I started off like house on fire, scored on my home debut. Fans took to me straight away. I loved the place. It was great. The lads that I was training with and playing with on a regular basis were real good fun. It was a real sort of close-knit thing at Aberdeen. And it is only a very, very small place as well. So you do have to be careful, as I found out on many an occasion.
It's like a goldfish bowl.
About where you're seen. So, but yeah, a really, really good club. Needs a new ground. Needed it back then. Certainly needs it now. They have also had a resurgence in recent seasons where they've threatened to challenge the dominance of the old firm, and I say that now because obviously Rangers are back up there. If I remember seeing rightly, Aberdeen against Rangers is the game that kicks off the first Premier League game of the season up there. So that's very, very interesting. But I had a great time. We did qualify for the UEFA Cup, but then again, I'd probably blame myself for this as well, somewhat, that I didn't really get along with some of the manager's tactics, in that I did it, but I just couldn't understand it, and there wasn't really any explanation for it. And if I'd have known that the manager at the time was leaving at the same time I did, I probably would have stayed there, because the manager that took over, Duncan Shearer and Steve Patterson, who started off ironically at United, they said to me, listen, you know, we want you to stay. Everybody starts on a clean slate here. And I said, I'm really sorry. Only last week I went down to Blackpool and I signed a pre-contract for January the 1st, and I'm only back up here to finish off my time here. And as soon as you know, the following weekend came, I was making my way down to spend Christmas with my family, do a bit of training with Blackpool, and look to start the game on New Year's Day against, would you believe, Huddersfield.
Yeah. Well, look like you had a good time up there. Tell us a little, what's it like living with a stripper?
Yeah, it was a bit of it was very, very surreal. I bumped into this girl one night. I didn't know what she did. And we got chatting. You know, I was single, she was single. She eventually told me, you know, what she did, and told me that she was short of somewhere to live, and she wasn't fishing, but me thinking, here we go, you know, this could be a little bit of fun for a while. I said, well, listen, I live in a 2-bedroom apartment. You're more than welcome to, you know, by getting yourself on your feet and looking for somewhere else, you can come and stay with me.
Because this was in the early days, wasn't it, Ben? When
yes.
you first moved up there.
Yeah, it was. It was definitely
a bit of company for you
before the Christmas, and yeah, it was very. It was great while it lasted, but I suddenly realised that my mum and dad were coming up for Christmas, and if my mum found out that I was living with a stripper, then there would be
to kick her out.
All hell would have broken loose. So she was Australian anyway, and I think that she was always looking to move back to where she came from, and I sort of made enough overtures for her to say, you know, I'm going to book my flight and I'm going to be out of here, and she was gone within a couple of months, I would have thought. But she was a great girl. We had a good laugh, and you know, we didn't spend all our time together. She wasn't what I would call a girlfriend, but I think we were both a convenience for each other.
Yeah, it worked out well. And tell us about the time when a supporter emailed the club, very upset, saying that you were out on a drinking sesh.
Yeah, this is what I'm saying, you see. David Priest, who is now a very, very good broadcaster, he's actually just gone back into football.
He's a goalkeeper, is it?
That's right. He's a super guy, really is. But we formed quite a close bond. And, of course, Jim Leighton, the ex-Man United goalkeeper, was up there as the goalkeeping coach. And they decided that they were going to have a meal together. And myself and Robbie Winters thought, do you know what? We'll go and meet them. Anyway, we went and met them, and they were perfectly happy for us to be there. But then we carried on the drinking into this was the Wednesday night, and we were playing Celtic on the Saturday tea time. And we were drinking till the early hours, thinking, as you always do, oh, I'm invisible, nobody's going to see me. Yeah. Even in a very, very small town like Aberdeen, that we all knew would perhaps get back. So the following morning, we were all, well, 3 of us were called individually into the manager's office. We didn't have any time to collaborate our bloody stories at all. And he said, I've got an email here. From a very disgruntled supporter that said that you were out drinking last night and dancing on tables and this, that, and the other. And I thought, oh God! I just said no, not at all. I thought on my feet, and you know, the other 2 lads, you know, were all right in the mental department as well. So I thought they'd have come up with something similar, which they duly did, to a minor miracle. That we went and joined the goalkeepers. He knew the goalkeepers were going out, but they were only going out for a quiet meal on their own, as you know, as goalkeepers have their own union, they very often do. And we just went and joined them, and we said that we took our girlfriends with them, and that the guy that had emailed in was definitely over exaggerating. What we did say was we were probably out a little bit later than we should have been, but unless he's got any evidence of us dancing on tables and being, you know, pie-eyed at 3 o'clock in the morning, then he's exaggerating. Anyway, he gave us the benefit of the doubt, and we came to play Celtic. And in all my time there up to that point, we hadn't beaten the Old Firm home or away. And we beat Celtic 2-0. And the same guy on the Monday morning wrote in and said, we play Rangers in a couple of weeks' time. I expect to see David Priest, Ben Thornley and Robbie Winters dancing on tables to whatever time they want.
They can do whatever they want.
If that's the type of performance they put in. And it just goes to show how fickle supporters can be. And it made for quite a funny story for him to have done that. And the manager called us in and he showed us the email that he'd sent back in, although he did say, you don't follow his lead. You we play Rangers. You play anybody. 3 days before you don't go out drinking. So that was that.
It just tells you though, so when you're winning football matches, you can do whatever you want. But as soon as you start losing a few, the fans are on you like a rash.
Yes, they are, and especially there as well because you can't really go. There isn't anywhere else around. It's not like living in Manchester where people could support City or Bolton or Wigan or Oldham or whatever.
You said it's almost like a village.
It is. It is a little village, even though it obviously is a city. It is a village. It's a very, very small village, and everybody gets to know your business very, very quickly. And I suddenly learned that there were places that I shouldn't be going if I didn't want to get seen or interrogated or emails coming to the club, etc. So after that particular occasion, I made sure that I did things by the book, or shall we say, a little bit more discreetly.
Yeah. Rule 13: don't get caught.
Exactly.
So when did the move to? You came south, then you came back to the northwest with Blackpool. Is that right?
Yeah, I did. Like I said, I probably wouldn't have done that if I'd have met Steve Patterson and Duncan Shearer a little bit sooner. But unfortunately, I didn't do that, and I went to Blackpool, and I thought it's an opportunity for me to move back to the northwest. It's not too far for me to travel from Manchester every day. And I thought it was going to be a way because Steve McMahon was desperate to bring me in. That I was going to get myself back playing again because for the last couple of months that I was at Aberdeen, I'd not even managed to get myself on the bench. I think the manager had decided that was it. He didn't want me in the team anymore, so I hadn't played for quite a while. I trained hard because you needed to sort of, even though there's no compensation for playing matches. There wasn't any way that I was going to toss off my training. I wanted to make sure that I still kept that going. So I went down to Blackpool. I came on as a sub against Huddersfield on New Year's Day and set up our equaliser. But it was a while before he actually stuck me in the starting lineup, which was a bit frustrating for me. I thought, he was really desperate to get hold of me, and yet it took him 4 or 5 games for him to actually play me. And to be perfectly honest with you, when I say that I have a fondness for most of the clubs that I play for, Blackpool is the one that I tend to overlook because I wasn't there that long. I didn't get a fair crack of the whip. It was a poorly run club. There were all sorts of politics going on in the background. Excuse me, with the Oystons and the ownership and the fans, hating them being in charge. Yeah. Steve McMahon as a manager wasn't very hands-on. He left everything to Mark Seagraves, who I really respected and really liked. But Steve McMahon was one of these that you would play the game on the Saturday, and if we were at home and we were done for 5:15, by 5:45, 6 o'clock, he'd be on a flight from Blackpool Airport to his place in Spain, and we wouldn't see him again until maybe Thursday or Friday. And you like when the week went at Blackpool, if you played a game on the Saturday or you were on the subs bench and you got on the field, then you would have you'd have Monday off. You'd come in Tuesday, you'd be off again on Wednesday, and then you'd train Thursday, Friday. I didn't like that. I was used to. I had always been used to being at Man United, where they don't get days off. They train every single day. I know that a lot of clubs bring you in on a Monday, Tuesday. They give you the middle of the week off, and you're back in Thursday, Friday. But at Old Trafford, that Sir Alex never gave the lads like a day off. What he might do is he might bring a player or 2 players in and say, listen, you've done really well. I need you to have a bit of a break. Go and take the family away for 4 or 5 days, and I'm not going to play you on Saturday type thing or after Saturday.
But he'd make that decision.
Yeah, exactly. he would give players a little bit of time to refresh themselves, to recuperate, to spend a bit of time with the family. But as a rule, they never came in on a Monday morning and thought, "Oh, I wonder which day we're getting off this week." It just didn't happen. So to go from that and steadily sort of see your days off getting more and more, it was in Blackpool, and it was like at that time a little bit of a holiday club. There's no question. It was poorly run, poorly managed, and I just didn't enjoy my time there at all. And like I said, part of that I think was because I really, really was looking forward to playing after spending 2 months doing nothing at Aberdeen, really, other than training. And it took Steve McMahon 4 or 5 games to actually throw me in, and I thought that was just a little bit strange. Whether he didn't enjoy my face, whatever it was, I assumed that I was coming in to start improving Blackpool Football Club, hopefully, but I never really got the chance to do that. And I think one of the games that I did play towards the end of the season, I fell over and broke my finger, of all things, and it just knocked me sick. And it was only about 5 or 6 minutes into the game, and at half time I was as white as a sheet, and I just had to come off. And that was the last game I played, because there was only a couple of games left, and I didn't play with a broken finger, just in case when it needed to reset. And I wasn't even contacted by Blackpool other than to say, that's it, we haven't got the funds to offer you another contract. So that really made me sort of a little bit disillusioned with football at that time, I must admit.
Yeah, I'm going to bring this man in because he's been listening intently to what you've been saying. How did the relationship between yourself and Brent start then? How did that discussion materialise?
Do you know what, Brent? You might have to refresh my memory. Before Brent starts, go on. Let me just reciprocate from the very kind words that he said about me before I joined you on here. I've often gone on record saying that I have the utmost respect for Brent and what he does, and he's still doing for Bacup Borough. When I joined there, I mean, anybody that knows where Bacup is, you know, it's a tiny little town up in the sticks. But he makes that club. He is Mr. Bacup Borough. He ran the bar. Anybody that's ever played for him will say that he was as fair could be. The monies that he dished out, he got them absolutely spot on. Nobody was ever knocking on his door saying, "Why have I not been paid?" He drove the bus for everyone. He helped with the maintenance of the pitch. And I think that when you've got somebody like that, you can't fail but to want to try and impress him, because he deserves it. And I, like I said, always been on record of having the utmost respect for Brent and what he does for that football club. And I just wish that he had a little bit more success on the field to be able to catapult the team a little bit further up through the divisions, because he does deserve it. And yeah, I've always had a lot of respect, Brent, and that has never waned.
Yeah, well, thanks for them kind words, Ben. And I think, you know, the feelings that, you know, absolutely mutual, because going back to the times that I remember the first, you know what I'm like, Steve, and Ben knows what I'm like. I'm a kind of, if there's a player out there, it don't matter where he's played at or where his career's taken him, if he's been at the top of his profession. You know, I'm kind of one of these people that'll I'll go and approach and dip my toe in the water and see if I can attract them to my club, because I kind of always gone on record as saying that I try to run Bacup Borough on the template of a football league club. Our football league clubs run with no money, you know, which is very, very difficult to try and use the template of a football league club. But that's the way I try to do things. And I remember that Ben was kind of between clubs, and I kind of remember going out to, and I'm sure it was at Middleton, and we arranged to meet, and we met in my car. I mean, I say I talk about football league clubs; they meet in hotels, but we met in my car. And I always remember having a chat with Ben, and his first words to me were, probably because I were bullying him up so much, but I needed to bully him because he were a tremendous player. And his first words to me were, "Are you sure it's not our Rod you want? Have you got it wrong?" And I went, "No, it's you, Ben. It's you, Ben." Because as we all know, Rod Thornley was a very good striker, scored lots of goals, had a good career at Altrincham at the time. He's now at Manchester. Well, I think he's still at Manchester United as sports.
No, he's not, Brent. No, he's not
Is
there
he not?
anymore. No, he's not. He left the club just before Ole Gunnar Solskjaer came in.
Right, yeah, but he was at Manchester United and obviously a part of the England setup.
That's correct.
So, you know, Ben said, "Are you sure it's not Rod?" And I went, "No, it's you. It's you that I want to come to the club." And obviously, you know, the rest is I sat down, I kind of told Ben what the club were about, and I was highly delighted. I mean, and still am, and still to this day, that you know, having Ben Thornley, I mean, you know as well as I know, Steve, I've had a lot of former professionals that's played under me at Bacup Borough, a lot of them, but the two names that always get the most mentions when I'm talking about Bacup Borough is Ben and David May. You know, and it was just such a pleasure to have them both play and be part of the history of Brent Peters and Bacup Borough.
Yeah. What did he say to persuade you then? What was the words? What came out of his mouth?
Like I said, I do now. He's told me. I do remember sitting in his car. It was the little black speedy Skoda, wasn't it, Brent?
Yeah, yeah, you can remember that, can't you? I think.
I remember it. Yeah.
How can you have a speedy Skoda?
Yeah, no, it was. It was a nicky little thing. But we had a little bit of a chat, and because of the way Brent is and his you know, his enthusiasm, and it was actually quite. You know, it was quite nice for me to sort of speak to somebody who really wanted me to come and play for him. I'd had it with Steve McMahon and it hadn't happened, but like I said, such is Brent's enthusiasm for Bacup Borough, and obviously Maisie being there as well was a little bit of a draw for me. So I just said, you know what, you know, this might be what I need to start enjoying my football again. So I don't think the conversation lasted a long time because I was still looking to be able to play football, and Brent was desperate to get me there. So the two things went hand in hand at that time, and it was a perfect fit for us both.
Because I read some clippings, Brent. You were saying that it was just a case of get Ben playing and getting back in the shop window. Was that really the crux of it?
Well, yeah, but that's kind of how I've been with a lot of the players. That,
a lot of the pros, yeah.
You know, a lot of the pros, because I still am to this day, Stephen. I'm a big believer that you know, especially now with the COVID situation, and there's going to be, as Ben will relate to, there's going to be a lot of players that are out of contracts and can't find clubs. But sooner or later, they've got to be playing, and they need a stage to play on. And it doesn't matter, in my opinion, whether that stage is Bacup Borough or whether it's Altrincham. It doesn't matter, as long as they've got a stage that they can play on, because sooner or later, as Ben enlightened at the start of the show, where things can go wrong for you, but if you still keep believing, as things went wrong for Ben with the injury, but if you keep believing and keep working hard and with people that you know, your life can turn round. And equally, I kind of bring that back to the player situation. You know, we've got a stage here; they can play on it. I know we're down at step 6, but at the end of the day, you know, they need to be playing on a stage, and that's what I kind of wanted to happen to Ben. Come and play for me, be on a stage, and let's see what doors open for you. You know, as Ben enlightened in the book. He played for me, and I'm proud of that. But then I'm going to be disappointed. It was like losing my right arm when Ben decided to go to pastures new at Salford. And you know, like I said, there were never ever no. Everybody who knows who's played for me. I once remember Tommy Allen coming out with a statement, and somebody said to Tommy Allen, goalkeeper, they once said to him, "Oh, he's mad, that Brent. You know, how do you play?" He said, "Listen, let me tell you something about Brent Peters." He said, "If you play for him, he's an absolute wonderful guy. The best person you can meet." He said, "Play against him, he's an horrible so-and-so." and yeah. Probably Ben, that's probably what Ben were related to. But listen, there were no animosity. But you know what? I've brought a team down here. I got some clippings out of the paper, and when I think, and I'm so proud of this, you know, when you think about the team that Ben played in, Not always because of injuries and availabilities, but I'll just, relay this team like David Felgate in goal, Welsh international goalkeeper, former Welsh international goalkeeper, and he's still here today, Ben. He's my head coach, is Dave Felgate.
Pass on my best, Ben, please.
Yeah, I will. Lee Anderson was in the back four. Lee Anderson played at Bury, played at Doncaster Rovers, had a lot of games in the Football League. Ian Hughes at centre half with David May. Ian Hughes, a former Welsh international centre half.
Great lad.
Played at Blackpool and Bury and Huddersfield. Obviously followed the similar path to Ben, and obviously he was obviously with David May. And then another lad who wasn't actually a Football League player, but it's somebody that Ben knows quite well, is Matty Cross, who's just left. He works at Manchester United, but he just left Runcorn Linnets, where I thought he'd done a really good job as assistant manager and coach at Runcorn, but he were in that team. A lad called Lee Bugger in it, who also had played at Bury, so he got some Football League experience. And then we got Darren Emmett and Ben, and Darren Emmett had been at Bury Football Club as well. So that was kind of an absolute strong side, and to have such players of the calibre of the ones that I've named that have had Football League experience, we just saw. I felt so humbled that I had them kind of players playing for me here at Bacup Borough, and Ben's a big part of the history of that.
Yeah, definitely some decent names in there, Ben.
Yeah, it was. It was a real privilege, and some great lads as well. Some great lads and names there that Brent's just brought up that I'd forgotten about. But Ian Hughes, I really, really liked. It was brilliant.
What were those half-time team talks like? Different?
Loud. I suppose it's like anything else. If you come in at half time and you're winning 2-0, then it's going to be very different if you're getting beat 3-0 at half time. So the team talks went accordingly. Like I said, he was always a fair man that gave everybody the praise they deserved when necessary, and also told them when they weren't doing the jobs properly. And if you're going to run a football team like any other manager would in the Football League, that's what you have to do, and it's absolutely no different, just at a slightly lower down the spectrum level.
Yeah, definitely. How are you enjoying life in TV? Because of course you're working in broadcasting now with MUTV.
Yeah, I don't know how I've managed to get myself.
Have you pulled that one off?
Definitely got a face for radio, that is for sure.
I won't say that. That's me and Brent who should be on radio. Mitchell Brothers.
It's sort of progressed from me doing sort of match day commentary on the radio, but with Paddy Creran, the age that he is, he's 81 at the moment, and he loved doing his commentary for the home games, but the away games was starting to be a bit of a stretch, because we have a thing at MUTV where we need to be at the ground that we're playing at 3 hours before, so that we can record some links inside the stadium, send them back. And Paddy, he was getting a little bit fed up of having to be there so early. But doing the links and what have you with the presenter and the commentator is part of the show and part of the build up for MUTV. So he needed to be there. But he sort of shoved me into it, Paddy, and just said, listen, I'll tell him and you can go and tell him. And slowly but surely, I did all the away games last year. And at the moment, I'm doing the home games as well, because United have a policy, through COVID, that no over 70s are allowed inside the stadium. That is their policy. So I'm not just covering the away games for MUTV. I'm doing the home games as well. How it's going to pan out next season, and when the fans come back and when Paddy's allowed back into the stadium, he might take over that mantle of doing the home games, and I'll revert back to doing my hospitality and doing the radio commentary rather than TV commentary and doing the away games. But it's brilliant. You're able to get up close and you're learning all the time. I listen to people like Gary Neville doing the commentary, and Jamie Carragher and Andy Hinchcliffe and whoever else. And you always pick up little bits, and I want to test myself that I'm seeing and I'm saying the same thing watching a game that they are in commentating it, because they've been doing it a long time. They've obviously played at the highest level. And if I'm sort of coming out with the same statements and the same sort of analysis that they do, then I must be doing a fairly decent job. So I love doing what I do. I obviously love the club. I make no secret of that fact. I'm really, really pleased with the way things are going at the moment. I'm so pleased for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, who was a teammate of mine for 2 seasons when he first arrived with Ronnie Johnson in 1996. And I think that he's weathered the storm with people saying, oh, the job's too big for him. I think he has proved that there is absolutely no chance that is anywhere near the truth. He's brought in some tremendously talented players. He'll bring in more. And we are now looking like a team that is not disjointed in any way, that are playing for each other, that are exciting to watch, that are scoring goals. And you know, let's have it right. I'm still in with. We know Liverpool have won the league. I've got no desire to watch Liverpool and Man City now, or because the games that they're playing in are fairly meaningless, unless they are teams that are going to help improve Manchester United's standings. So the most exciting bit for me now is Man United are battling it out with Leicester, with Chelsea, with Wolves, and maybe 1 or 2 others, depending on how results go for that 3rd, 4th and 5th spot. Again, depending on what the outcome is of the Manchester City hearing on Monday, I think that is, as to whether they'll be banned from Europe. But I think you want to eradicate that straight away. If you can get yourself into 3rd or 4th spot by the end of the season, then you don't have to worry about whether the 5th spot's going to become available, because you've made one of them your own anyway. We're still in Europe. Obviously, we've still got that to finish off, which will be done next month. And we've got an FA Cup semi-final to play next weekend, which, you know, as well as Chelsea are playing at the moment, they won't be relishing the prospect of playing a Manchester United team that have already beaten them 3 times this season and are looking to make it probably, as far as Chelsea are concerned, an unprecedented 4th. And who would bet against Man United? Like I said, they are playing some of the best football. They've brought in some super players that have just galvanised the club. And they're exciting to watch, no question.
You've said that all season, haven't you, Brent? You're a massive fan of Ole.
Massive, and you know, they don't suffer fools at Manchester United, and Sir Alex certainly doesn't suffer fools. And you know, there's no doubt in my mind that Sir Alex has had a big behind the scenes saying in Ole getting that position, and rightly so, because he's a chip off the old block. You can tell that, and you know, and the transformation in, if you think, I mean, you know, like Ben touched on Nicky Butt and the work that Nicky Butt's doing at the club. But, you know, I go back to the young lad, you know, Mason Greenwood. He's a terrific talent, but he'll only get better with the help of Ole, because Ole's a striker. And obviously, you know, you can tell now leaps and bounds. And even it's no surprise that Martial's coming into his own because of Ole. You know, so again, so just to reiterate what Ben's saying there, as that the job's too big for him. No, it's not too big for him at all, and he's the right man for the job, and he's a big part of Manchester United's fortlaw. And you know, it's exciting times, and Ben's 100% correct there in everything that he said. That, you know, you watch Manchester United now, you know, they're a different team, and you know, they are exciting and they're full of goals. They create chances. Yeah, okay, you know, they might have had a few misdemeanors at the back, but that'll come right. But I remember one of the old managers, I can't remember which one it were. I don't know if it might have even been Tommy Docherty, but Tommy Docherty used to say, you know, it doesn't matter if we concede 3, we'll always score 5. You know, and that makes for entertainment, doesn't it? And that's what it's all about. It's an entertaining game. You know, it's an entertaining sport. So it's not boring anymore watching Manchester United. It's really exciting, and I really reiterate. And just before we finish, Ben, I'd just like to say, you know, I tune into MUTV. I'm a subscriber of MUTV, and you know, like there, you said you picked bits up off, you know, the likes of Gary Neville and and Jamie Carragher and people like that. You're doing a fantastic job on MUTV. You know, I listen to it all the time, and I take a special interest in you because obviously you've been a part of this club and a part of me, and you are doing a fantastic job, and that's, you know, maybe that'll take you, you know, I'm not trying to get you away from MUTV, but you never know, Sky TV's only around the corner, so maybe you might get a slot on there one day. I'm sure you will. I'm sure you will.
Very kind.
It's always helps when you've got that passion. It's always helps, Ben, when you've got that passion.
Yeah, when you've got the passion, and obviously when you you know, when you know the history of the club, you know, I was there from when I was 16, and you know, I'm 45 now, and I'm you know, I'm still very much part of it, and I'm always made to feel part of it. I understand what the youth setup means at Manchester United. So even though I love working and doing the stuff with the first team, if somebody, you know, if they ring me up and say, will you do a commentary for the women? Will you do the under-18s? Yes, they often do turn to me because we won the Youth Cup in 1992, and they know that I have it holds a very special place for me. So they're actually in the semi-final, Manchester United, against Chelsea. And I think because they're in the latter stages of that competition, the FA Youth Cup, they are looking for a window to be able to try and finish that, which would be, you know, brilliant. And they're in with a really, really good chance of doing that. But Chelsea are always very strong, and it's going to be a really good game. So it doesn't matter to me whether it's the 23s, the first team, the women. I'm passionate about Manchester United, and I want everybody to, you know, to succeed and do well. I know it's not always going to be the case, but it doesn't stop me from championing them.
Yeah, and you've come full circle. You've come home, really, in many respects.
I have. I've come. I have come full circle, and it just goes to show what a brilliant club Manchester United is. That, you know, if you live your life right and you do the right things, then there's always a chance that they will have you back through the door, and that has been the case with me. And I'm really grateful for the opportunity that both the club and MUTV have given me.
Yeah, well, it's been an absolute pleasure. I'm going to leave the final word to your former manager, Brent.
Well, yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure, Ben, and I really appreciate you coming on the show today. And I've got, this hadn't happened in any of our shows before, but because you've been a big part of Bacup Borough, the girls, Deborah and the girls, said to send you regards because, you know, in all honesty, Ben, you were loved to bits here at Bacup Borough. You're a likeable lad. You're still a likeable lad. And long may your success doing what you're doing, co-commentating, you know, it goes well for you and bodes well. And for everybody out there, don't forget this book, Off the Shelves. You don't have to be a red to, you know, to purchase this book because it's all about football. But on behalf of myself, Deborah, Amy, Billy Joe, our Natalie, you know, and the girls who were here at the time when you were here, Ben, all the best and keep up the good work. Thank you.
Please send that back in their direction as well. It was always a pleasure, Ben, as it has been this morning. And I wish you every success in your future with the club as well. And hope that this horrible pandemic brings everybody together and we don't see anybody falling by the wayside. It's an integral part of the British culture is playing football and watching football, and we need to preserve it as best we can. So all the best, guys. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Top man. Bye bye.